The main difference between a subject question and an object question is a topic many students find difficulties with, but the rules are easy and they cover all tenses. The main concerns are, do you need an auxiliary verb? And is there a change in word order? Let's look at this basic example. John loves Sue. We see the subject, verb and object there. We can ask two questions, one with the answer John, the subject of the sentence, and one with the answer Sue, the object. But each question has different grammar. Note that in subject questions we can only ask who or what. So, how do we ask subject questions? We have our sentence, John loves Sue. Oh, look at that photo. We can see why he loves Sue. A subject question asks, who is the subject? The rule is, exchange the subject, John, for the question word, who. Who loves Sue? Let's do the same with this example. What could the question be with the answer, the dog? We take away the subject, the dog, and exchange it for the question word, what? What ate the cat? It's as simple as that. Try this one. Who should go to the store? We change the subject, Peter, for who. There's another small rule that you need to know for subject questions. The person who asks a subject question does not know the answer. Maybe the subject is singular, maybe plural. Look at this sentence. John and Steve love Sue. We can't ask who loves Sue. We always use the third person singular for he, she, or it. So that would be, who loves Sue? The answer can be plural, John and Steve. Here's another sentence. Dogs and cats chase birds. We don't ask what chase birds. We ask what chases birds. Third person singular of the verb to chase. And here is the answer, dogs and cats. But this is not a mistake. It's correct. Write subject questions from these sentences. Who showed me the building? We exchange Cindy for who. Who can speak Flemish? Who is going to cook tomorrow? What wasn't working yesterday? Who has finished their homework? Why do we write there? When you're asking a question, of course, you don't know the answer. You don't know if the answer is a man, a boy, a woman, or many people. So we normally say, who finished their homework, because we don't know who or how many people. If you do know that it is one man or one boy, then you can say who finished his homework, but normally we use their instead of his or her or its. Who is very tired? Remember, you're asking a subject question, so we always use the third person singular of the verb, who is very tired, not who are very tired. Here is the form of past continuous. It's subject plus was or were plus verb ing. As you can see, it's similar to present continuous, but we use was or were instead of am, is, or are. I was driving my car. Or in the negative, I wasn't driving my car. You were sleeping, you weren't sleeping. He, she, it was eating, or he, she, it wasn't eating. We were swimming, we weren't swimming. They were shouting, they weren't shouting. How do we ask questions in past continuous? Again, it's very similar to the present continuous. For yes-no questions, we simply change the positions of the subject and the was or were. So, I was sleeping becomes, was I sleeping? And the short answers are, yes you were, or no you weren't. Here's another question. Were they crying? And the answer is, yes they were, or no they weren't. Making a subject question is very easy. Just change the subject for the question word. Who was sleeping? We also make object questions in a similar way to the present continuous. For example, what were you driving? The was or were changes position with the subject, and then you put the question word at the beginning. Here's another example. Why was he shouting? So, the functions. When do we use past continuous? We use it for interrupted actions, meaning actions that come in the middle of others. We use it to describe background activities, actions, or states. We use it for simultaneous actions. This means actions that are happening at the same time. Or we use it for activities happening at a certain given time. As with a lot of things in English, there can be an overlap in function. This means you may have two reasons why you need to use past continuous. But that's fine. That means you just use it. Let's look at interrupted actions. The key here is maybe these actions stopped, or maybe not, maybe they continued. That doesn't matter. But there's an action that comes in the middle of this longer action. Look at this. I was walking along the road when I saw Peter. Peter's walking continued until, boom! I saw Peter at that point. Here the walking stopped. Maybe I said hello to Peter. Or, I was walking along the road when I saw Peter. But I continued walking. Maybe I don't like him. We also use the past continuous to describe background activities, actions, or situations. Let's look at an example. When I woke up, my brother was making breakfast, the sun was shining, and the birds were singing. This is an action coming in the middle of other continuing and longer activities or situations. So when I woke up at that one particular moment, there were 3 activities in progress. Now the sun shining continued for a long time, and it's still happening now, and will continue for a few hours into the future. We hope. My brother making breakfast was a very short action. The birds singing started a little bit before the sun started shining, but at that one moment when I woke up, these 3 activities were continuing. We were in the middle of those activities. It's action coming in the middle of other activities or situations. Let's look at another example of background activities and actions. My sister was reading, my father was watching TV, and my brothers were playing when I came into the room. Here we have again 3 activities that were in progress at that moment when I came into the room. They started at different times, maybe, and they finished at different times, maybe or maybe not. But at that one time, these 3 actions were in progress when I came into the room. Simultaneous actions. This is very similar to background activities, but we're not talking about one action happening in the middle of others. We are just saying these 2 or 3 activities were in progress at the same time. Let's look at an example. It was a quiet evening. I was reading and my sister was doing her homework. So in that past period, that evening, there were these 2 long activities. We are not saying which happened first, or when they started or finished. We're just saying they were in progress at the same time. Another function of past continuous is activities happening at a certain given time. Here in the diagram we have 6 o'clock, and there we can see cook dinner. It's an activity that started before 6 o'clock and finished afterwards. We can ask the question, what were you doing at 6 o'clock? And the answer is, I was cooking dinner. This means I was in the middle of cooking dinner at that time. We only use past simple for finished actions. So, I cooked dinner means I started dinner at that time. Here's another example. What was the old man doing at 4 o'clock? He was reading his newspaper. He started reading maybe at 1 o'clock and then continued until 5 o'clock. He's a very slow reader. But at that time, he was in the middle of reading his newspaper. If you imagine there's a crime and the police come to see you. Now the police know that the crime happened at 5 o'clock. So they will ask you, what were you doing at 5 o'clock? Meaning, what action were you in the middle of at that time? They won't say, what did you do at 5 o'clock? Because that would mean, what did you start at 5 o'clock and then finish at some point after? Consider these 3 sentences. I was drinking tea while my mother was talking on the phone. I drank a cup of tea while my mother was talking on the phone. I drank tea while my mother was talking on the phone. These are all slightly different sentences. Number 1 means simply, these 2 activities were in progress at that time. In number 2, I drank a cup of tea means there was one completed action in the middle of a longer activity. So, my mother started talking on the phone, I made tea and I drank it, and I finished the tea, and my mother was still talking. One completed action in the middle of a longer activity. Number 3 is also a correct sentence. Now maybe it finished, maybe it didn't. It's just an activity that maybe was repeated. Maybe I had 2 cups of tea. It's very unspecific. Now if my mother talks on the telephone, I can drink 6 cups of tea in that time. Let's look at future predictions. For predictions, you have a choice of will or going to. And the good news is, sometimes both are correct for the same situation. With grammar for predictions, when you use will, this means my knowledge or expertise tells me that this is a future action or situation. If you use going to, this tells the listener that your eyes tell you that this is a future action or situation. Sometimes, as you will see, both are possible in some situations. Let's start with going to for predictions. Look at the picture. What do you predict? He's going to fall. Your eyes tell you about this future happening. Here is another example. What can you say from the picture? What is your prediction? It's going to rain. We use going to because you can see clouds. Let's now look at will for predictions for when we have knowledge or experience. An economist might say, the economy will improve. She's an expert. She has a university degree. Her knowledge tells her this. A teacher says to a lazy student, you will fail. The teacher knows this because he knows the student, and in his career he has seen students fail time and time again because they are lazy. Now there is a grey area. This means sometimes you can use will and sometimes going to. An economist can also look at data. Her eyes can see it. She may say, the economy is going to improve. So will or going to is possible there. Good news, huh? A fortune teller can say, you will be rich. She is an expert, or so she thinks. A fortune teller could also say, you are going to be rich, because she sees the evidence in the tarot cards or in the crystal ball. More on predictions. For this situation here, would you say she's going to have a baby or she will have a baby? You can see the bump in her stomach and your knowledge tells you that there is a baby coming. But it's obvious to the eyes. Everybody can see it. So if you say she will have a baby, people might say, oh really? Oh, how clever you are. And then they will laugh. So you must say here, she's going to have a baby, not will. Consider this situation. You are on a ship in stormy weather and the boat is moving up and down. You see a boy eating many chocolate cakes. Your experience tells you, ooh, he will be sick. Then the boy starts to look very ill. Then you would say, he's going to be sick, because your eyes tell you. Let's do some practice. You need to choose will or going to, or say that both can be used. You can pause the video if you need to think of the answer. The answer is going to. I'm going to pass, because you have witnessed your hard work. You saw yourself do all that work. This one is going to, because you begin, look at that child. That means you are using your eyes. She's going to cry. What about this one? They will not come. You use will, or they won't come. They never come. You know them very well, and in your experience, they never come. You can use both here. If you see somebody putting chocolate in the cake, it's going to taste nice, but also your experience of eating chocolate cake will tell you this. It will taste nice. So somebody is writing a note and the question is this. Again, both are possible with slightly different meanings. Will they see this note means I'm making a prediction. I can't see them, it's a future situation that I can't actually see at the moment. But also, if you're looking at a note, maybe somebody's putting it on a door in big letters, so your eyes assess the note. Or maybe somebody's writing the note in pencil in very small letters and putting it somewhere where maybe nobody can find it. You can see all of this, so you would say going to. It doesn't really matter. Here we can use both. Will I die? You're saying, Doctor, in your expert opinion, is this a future action? Will I die? Or, Doctor, you've seen my test results. You can see me now. You see my physical condition. Am I going to die? Both are possible, and it doesn't matter which one you use.